Brothers and sisters, I know in some of my videos you might see that I'll be drinking, and if it appears that from the camera angle of the phone, being as though I'm not that much tech savvy, that it might look like I'm drinking with my left hand, but in actuality I'm drinking with my right hand. And also, it is from Islam to have good suspicions of your brother and your sister, that you will not think that they will, inshallah, do something as far as drinking with their left hand. Especially, you would think good, as it was mentioned about one of the tabi'een, that they said, if I see my brother standing at a mountain saying that he is the Lord, the Most High, I will make an excuse for him that perhaps he don't understand what he's saying. And we're in a generation, an era, where many people don't make excuses for one another. So have good thoughts, inshallah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being as though it's not a fasting day, which is Yom Khamis tomorrow, do not forget, inshallah ta'ala, if you can, to fast. So today I can actually drink, alhamdulillah. It's also from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when you drink, you should at least try to drink with 3 gulps, inshallah, and not try to drink all the way down. Sometimes we get stuck on that. This was a special request to talk about the third aspect of Tawheed. And what we would like to do, inshallah, not just to talk about the third aspect of Tawheed, but we want us to become alert, because the third aspect, that's why we titled it, why is the third aspect of Tawheed so fundamentally important? You need to understand that the third aspect of Tawheed is highly important, because there was a lot of Muslims who went astray in this area. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us firm and to not allow us to go astray when it comes to understanding His beautiful names and His perfect attributes. Tawheed. But alhamdulillah is actually the right hand, and I apologize, I gotta learn how to actually make it savvy, inshallah. So before beginning, we just wanted to mention that as a reminder to myself and to you all. If you see someone speaking ill within the comment sections, if you know it's outright ill, don't entertain it. There's a perfect ayat. There's a perfect ayat that comes in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in Surah Al Imran, where Allah Jalla wa Ala tells Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam how to deal with the hypocrites as well as the disbelievers, and it's to allow them to die in their rage. And sometimes when you see individuals just want to be very rude and not really trying to uphold that which is khayr, then you kill them by not responding to them and just ignoring them as if they do not exist. That's why I don't take my time out to say anything. And I've been seeing the negative comments, and I know some of these people who come on and speak like that. And Allahu A'lam. Tayyib. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah alladhi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa din al-haqq liyudhhirahu ala din kulli wa kafa billahi shahida wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lahu iqraran bihi wa tawhida wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam taslima mazida amma ba'd. فهذا اعتقاد الفرقة الناجئة المنصورة إلى قيام الساعة أهل السنة والجماعة، وهو الإيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله والبعث بعد الموت والإيمان بقدر خيره وشره. ومن الإيمان بما وصف الله به نفسه في كتابه ووصف به رسوله محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم من غير تحريف ولا تعطيل ومن غير تكييف ولا تمثيل، بل يؤمنون بأن الله سبحانه وتعالى ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير، فلا ينفون عنه ما وصف به نفسه ولا يحرفون الكلمة عن مواضعه ولا يحيدون في أسماء الله وآياته ولا يكيفون ولا يمثلون صفاته بصفات خلقه إلى آخر كلام نفيس من شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمة الله تعالى عليه. Because we're going to be talking about this topic, we wanted to mention the open introduction and some of the points that Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam, have mentioned in his famous book or famous treatise, which was known as Aqidat al-Wasitiyya. And it's tremendous because if you pay attention just to the introduction, he laid down some groundwork to understanding the issue of Iman and understanding the issue of belief. Because the most important thing and the most prized thing that any believer can have is his or her Aqidah. You have to understand that your Aqidah is the most prized thing that you can have. Your Aqidah. And we know we say your deen and so forth interchangeably, but your belief system needs to be guarded and protected. And fundamentally, the Quran and the Sunnah, that's what it does. It nourishes and it teaches you the correct Aqidah. And when it says the correct Aqidah, meaning the correct and proper way to understand Allah, to worship Allah, which is the Sharia, the laws and legislations, the prohibitions, and the commandments. But he says, not going too deep, he gives us some fundamental principles dealing with understanding Iman. And whenever we talk about Iman, we're talking about the belief in Allah, we're talking about the 6 articles of faith. Belief in Allah, belief in His books, His angels, belief in His book, belief in His messengers, belief in the last day, or belief in the resurrection after death, and the belief in the qadr, the good of it and the bad. But also from having Iman in Allah as a fundamental principle is that we only describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that which He described Himself with, because He's no best about his own self. So whatever He said in His book that He has, His names or His attributes, then we affirm them. And whatever the Prophet ﷺ is reported authentically to have said about Allah Azza wa Jal is the same thing. Okay? And then there are certain principles that we must keep in mind. So Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, in explaining the third aspect, he's going to not just explain what it is, because many of us hear about Allah's attributes, Allah's names, and so forth and so on. He's going to give us something real important to understand. He says, this aspect of at-Tawheed, there is many confusion, there is many speech, there is many problems that have arisen due to it. So the people, when they come to this aspect, they are divided into 3 categories. When it comes to the aspect of at-Tawheed al-Asma'i wa Sifat, there are 3 categories, or 3 main categories whenever it comes to. And by the way, all of these categories say that they're Muslim. This is not just dealing with the kuffar here. And we talked about this before. The Asma al-Rububiyyah and Asma al-Uluhiyyah kuffar. Okay? Asma wa Sifat, I mean Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, and what Asma'i wa Sifat deals with the Muslims. Okay? The Muslims is ones who made the big problem here. We have to understand that. He says here, they are the mumathil, and when you hear me using these terms, I'm not trying to be technical, I'm going to make it real simple for us to understand. They are the mumathil, and they are the mu'tal and the mu'tadil. Okay? The mumathil is one who make tamthil, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And the mu'tal is the one who make ta'atil, the mu'attal. The mu'attal is the one who make ta'atil, we'll get into that later. And the mu'tadil, inshallah ta'ala, may Allah make us of those who are mu'tadil, those who are on the balance course, meaning upon the kitab wa sunnah, and they work with those principles that they need to work with, inshallah. Right. As far as the mu'attil, then they can be a mu'attil from 2 aspects. Whether they outright deny the verses and the attributes or the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they try to distort the meaning and change the meaning for something other than what it actually intended or what it's meant. Either way, they are still from the people who are mu'attilun, those who deny. Tayyib. He says the first innovation that have occurred within this ummah was the innovation of the Khawarij. Okay? You might say, brother, I thought you were talking about Asma'i wa Sifat. I am talking about Asma'i wa Sifat. But you need to understand everything surrounding Asma'i wa Sifat. It's important. The first innovation to occur in the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the Khawarij. Okay, and that is because the Khawarij, they had made a claim. قال جعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو ذو الخويصرة من بني تميم. What happened was the father of the Khawarij, who was named Dhul Khuwaisra, he was from the tribe of Tamim. When the Prophet ﷺ was distributing the war booty, he was distributing some gold, giving out some gold, different sadaqah to different tribes. جاءت فقسمها بين الناس. The Prophet ﷺ came with this gold and he distributed it amongst the people. So this man, Dhul Khuwaisra, okay, the father of the Khawarij, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, and look how he responded. You can already see the disrespect. He didn't say, "Oh Ya Rasulullah," "Oh Messenger of Allah." He didn't say, "Ya Nabi Allah," "Oh Prophet." He said, "Ya Muhammad." Okay, he called the Prophet ﷺ by his name. He said, "Ya Muhammad, i'dil," and then he told him to be just, as accusing the Prophet ﷺ not to be just. فكان هذا أول خروج خرج به على الشريعة الإسلامية. So Shaykh Uthaymeen said this incident marks the first incidents where someone went against the first khuruj that actually took place. Someone actually went against, okay, the Sharia al-Islamiyya, the Islamic Sharia, because he went against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was the leader of the Ummah, right? ثم عظم فتنتهم في أواخر خلاف العثمان وفي الفتنة بين علي ومعاوية. So he says that the Khawarij, their fitna was magnified, especially during the end of the rulership or the Khilafah of Uthman ibn Affan. Actually, he was actually killed. He was martyred. He was one of the Sahabas who memorized the Quran. Not just he one of the senior Sahabas, but he was one of the Khulafa al-Rashideen. Also, between the fitna that occurred between Ali ibn Abi Talib as well as Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Alright? فَكَفِرُوا مُسْلِمِينَ وَاسْتَحَلُّوا دِمَاءَهُم. Their fitna was so great that they had principles from their fitna and from their innovation, is that their principles were they declared Muslims to be non-believers, which meaning takfir. Okay? And they made the shedding of the blood of the Muslims to be lawful. Okay? Then there occurred another bid'ah. Alright? And this bid'ah occurred from the Qadariyah. They are known as the Mujusi Hadil Ummah. They are known as the fire worshippers of this Ummah. The Qadariyah. Alright? There are those who say, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not decree the actions of the servants. وَلَيْسَ دَاخِلَ تَحْتَ مَشِيئَتِهِ وَلَيْسَ مَخْلُوقَةٌ لَهُ. That the actions themselves, they do not fall under the Allah's will, nor do they fall under that which He have created. لَيْسَتْ مَخْلُوقَةٌ لَهُ بَلْ كَانَ. Rather, those from amongst the extreme from among them and their colleagues, they say that indeed the actions of the servant is that which is unknown to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nor is it written in Allahul Mahfuz, alright, in the preserved tablet, and that Allah does not know what His servants do إِلَّا إِذَا وَقَعَ ذَلِكَ, until after the action has actually been completed, until the action occur. And they say that this affair is that type of affair where they believe and that Allah Jalla wa Ala doesn't know anything about His creation until after the creation doesn't. And this is a tremendous fitna, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that, the Qadariyah. And I know we mentioned that there are three groups. Understand what he's saying. He's not giving you name so-and-so, name so-and-so. So what he's going to do is he's going to give you these groups that all fall under either one of the three things he mentioned. Alright? They're going to fall either being a mu'attil, or they're going to fall being tamthil. Okay? Meaning someone who deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala names and attributes, whether they deny Him outright or whether they try to distort them. Or meaning someone who likens Allah attributes to the creation, making comparisons between the creator and the creation. Alright? As far as the Mu'tadil, we ask Allah to make us be amongst those. That's the people who are on the Kitab and Sunnah. He says, these individuals are the ones who were during the time of Abdullah ibn Umar, who was the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, and during the time of Ubad ibn al-Samit, and a group of other companions. However, they occur, the Qadariyya, at the end time of the periods of the companions. Alright? Then there occur another bid'ah. And this bid'ah was known as al-Irja'. And they occur, many of them occur during the time of the Tabi'een, who was the second generations after the Sahabas, was the students of the Sahabas. And then there was the the Irja' is the Murji'ah. They are those who claim that a person's iman is not affected by way of sins. You are a believer, they say nah. And then they will say to you, لا تضرك معصية مع الإيمان تزني وتصرف وتشرب خمر. So meaning they will say to you that sins does not affect your iman, such as committing fornication, adultery, stealing, robbing, drinking, khamr. And they say killing as long as you remain a believer. فأنت مؤمن كامل الإيمان وإن فعلت كل معصية. So with them, and their principle is that you're still a believer even if you do every sin in the whether major or minor. You're still a believer with these individuals. Your iman is not affected whatsoever. However, Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he spoke about them. He says, as far as the kalam, the speech of the Qadariyya and the Murji'ah, these two specific groups, he says, as regards to the rest of the companions, then their issue was more so mainly concentrated on the obedience and the disobedience, the believer and the sinner. They really didn't speak about Allah, meaning about Allah Azza wa Jalla or His attributes. Alright? Even though we're talking about the Asma, in fact, Shaykh Islam said that this group really didn't speak about Allah in regards to His names and His attributes. Tawheed. Then there came a group of intellectuals. Wallahi, 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 brothers and sisters, we still have remnants of this today. We still have remnants of this today. Many people are highly impressed with their intellect. Whenever it comes to the Quran and the Sunnah and to Revelation and about the Creator and even about some of the things of the creation, which is a wonder, the intellect still can't compass all of them. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِعِلْمِهِ. As Allah Jalla wa Ala said, you cannot encompass of His knowledge. Encompass, alright? Encompass His knowledge. No one can fully grasp all of the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the intellectuals during this time, they were the ones who claimed that their intellect should proceed over the revelation. And I want you to understand something here. A person don't have to tell you that they prefer their intellect over the revelation. Somebody don't have to say that to you for you to recognize that they are doing that. You should be able to understand that whenever a person tries to use their intellect, you understand? And whatever agrees with their intellect, they accept, and whatever does not agree with their intellect, or whatever they cannot comprehend, they reject. All right? When this comes to Allah and His Messenger, this cannot apply. And when they apply that, in actuality, indirectly, what they're doing, they are placing their intellect above the text, okay, over the revelation. So they don't have to come to you and say, yeah, I prefer whatever I think, or this. They don't have to say that. All they have to let you know is whatever they think that agrees with their intellect, they're going to accept, and whatever does not agree with their intellect, they're going to reject. This right here is a batil, a false principle, especially when it comes to Allah's revelation, or when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, or even comes to dealing with the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and those affairs which does not give us room to do it. And this is why the fundamental book that Imam Ahmed, the Imam of the Sunnah, have a book which is known as Usul al-Sunnah. Very fundamental book, very beautiful book. And he brings some beautiful points. But early on in the book, one of the points he brings is that the Quran and the Sunnah cannot be explained with the intellect. The Quran and the Sunnah cannot be explained by way of the intellect. And he put this here because there were a lot of people, like we said, intellectuals, who went astray regarding this. فَقَالُوا قَوْلًا بَيْنَ قَوْلَيْنِ. So these intellectuals, They are reported to make a statement between two statements, the statements of the Murji'ah and the statements of the Khawarij. All right, these intellectuals, they pretty much had a statement, meaning a position that they took that was in between the two positions of these groups, those who practice irja and those who practice kharij, right? The Khawarij. Remember the Khawarij, they went so extreme that they were saying that a person commit a major sin, right? They're a kafir, and then they're in the hellfire forever, right? And then you have the Murji', they are those who so extreme that sins, no matter whatever you do, doesn't affect Iman at all. But then there comes another group, and these are the intellectuals. These are the ones who want to pride themselves on their intellect. That they come in and say, no, we're going to say a position between these positions. And this group, this group are the ones who say that the one who does a major sin, he is not a believer. Just as this is said, the one who does this, just as it is said, and it is not a kafir, just as it is said by the Khawarij. The one who falls into a major sin, he is not a believer, and the one who falls into nor is he as a disbeliever, just as the Khawarij said. Rather, he is in a station in between two stations. Shaykh Uthaymeen give us an example, like a person who travels from Medina to another city. All right, he leaves from Medina and he goes to another city. He's going somewhere else. So while he's in between his path, meaning he's going here traveling, he's leaving from Medina, he's going to another city. He's in suspension. So he's not in the other city yet, nor is he still in Medina, but he's in a position or a place that's in between them two. So this is what he's saying irja is. Basically, you're not a believer and you're not a disbeliever. What are you? You're not a believer and you're not a disbeliever. What are you? This is what irja is. We're not going to say you're a believer and we're not going to say you're a disbeliever. What are you? I mean, that don't even make rational sense. I mean, for them to be called themselves intellectuals here, that don't even make sense. You're not a believer and you're not a what? You're not a non-believer. What are you then? Right? He says, فَلَا هُوَ فِي مَدِينَةٍ وَلَا فِي الَّتِي سَافَرَ إِلَيْهَا. He's not in the city, he's not in his own city, nor is he in the city that he was to travel to. Rather, he's in between two states. And this is regard the ahkam of the dunya. As for the ahkam of the akhirah, now this is regards to the worldly life. A person is not a believer nor disbeliever with this group. All right. However, now when it comes to the akhirah, this is what they say. When it comes to the akhirah, they says that a person will remain in the fire forever. فهم يوافقون الخوارج في الآخرة لكن في الدنيا يخالفونه. So we see that they agree with the Khawarij when it comes to the affairs of the hereafter, in terms that the person will be in the hellfire forever. However, in the dunya, they oppose them. They do not agree with their views. Then this ظاهر هذه البدع وانتشر. So this bid'ah, it actually spread. It became apparent and it spread. Then there occur another type of bid'ah, right? The bid'ah of darkness, and that is of Jahmiyyah, and that is the bid'ah of Jahm ibn Safwan and his followers, which was, they were given the name al-Jahmiyyah because they follow al-Jahm ibn Safwan. There occurred this bid'ah, and this bid'ah in and of itself is not really connected to the affairs of Allah's names, nor the ahkam, person being a believer or a disbeliever or a sinner, nor between two stations. Rather, what it is connected to is the Creator Himself. So Jahm ibn Safwan, he went even further. He's not like the previous groups that we're going to talk about their actions. We're going to talk about the servants. We're going to talk about the names and attributes. We're going to talk about the servants and so forth and their actions. That's not the point. Whether they got iman, whether they're a sinner or nothing like that. We're going to direct focusing on the Creator Himself now. All right, this is what they done, right? انظروا كيف تدرجت البدع في صدر الإسلام. So Shaykh Uthaymeen want us now to use our intellect. He wants you to look at how innovation have appeared and grew into stages in Islam. In early periods of Islam, he wants us to look how did bid'ah, and pay attention now, because some people think bid'ah is a light matter. It's really not a light matter. There was no bid'ah during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was no bid'ah during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was no bid'ah during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why is I keep saying that? The reason why I want you to understand it is because the khutbah tahajjud is famously known. There are over 14, even probably more than 14 sahabas who have related the khutbah tahajjud, okay, the sermon of need. And at the end of the sermon of need, we know that the Prophet ﷺ and many other narrations where he will always warn against bid'ah. And there was none during this time. The importance of this issue, because just because bid'ah might seem light to you, that don't mean it would not take you to another stage. Okay? It will lead you to another stage. And this is what happened. They started off by denying certain things that dealt with the slaves, such as the Qadariyah, the people who deny the Qadr. They were saying, okay, Allah doesn't know the actions of His servants until after they do them. That was concentrating on the servants, right? Then you had the Khawarij, and then you had the Khawarij, and then you had the Murji'ah. You had them concentrating on whether or not the person's iman is affected. If a person commit a major sin, like the Khawarij says, then he is a kafir. They make takfir, and then they say that his blood is lawful, and then if he die, he remains in the fire forever. And then you have the Mu'tazila, the intellectuals. They are those who say, no, we're going to concentrate on the fact that the person is neither believer, nor is he a disbeliever. He's just in suspension, stuck in between two states. But then you have the Jahmiyyah. We're going to go to the Creator Himself, and this is what he wants us to pay attention to. Hatta wasilu ila al-khalq, and to the point that the innovation started off with the servant and it ended all the way up with the Creator, Jalla wa Ala. وَجَعَلُوا خَالَقَ بِمَنْزَلَةِ الْمَخْلُوقِ. And in their bid'ah, they have placed or made the Creator Himself to reach the station of the Creator. Alright? Other words, they have made the Creator and the creation sort of like one, whether it's in similarities, whether it's in comparison, so forth, etc., etc. يَقُولُونَ كَمَا شَاءُوا, and they said whatever they desire. Whatever they wanted to say, they said concerning the Creator. But يَقُولُونَ هَذَا ثَابِتٌ لِلَّهِ. So if they wanted to say that this was affirmed for Allah, then we affirm this for Allah. وَهَذَا غَيْرُ ثَابِتٌ. And if this isn't affirmed for Allah, then this isn't affirmed for Allah. هَذَا يَقْبَلُ عَقْلَ أَن يَتَّصِفَ اللَّهُ بِهِ. So what they did is, they had used the aql, meaning that whatever the aql agree with it or not, they ascribe Allah with it. And if the aql does not agree with it, then they do. It's a la yakulu aql. Whatever the aql does not agree with, then they ascribe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with it. فَهَذَا بِدْعَةُ الْجَهْمِيَّةِ وَمُعْتَزِلَةِ. Okay, this is the bid'ah of the Jahmiyyah or the Mu'tazila. So whatever the aql confirmed, they were those who say, okay, then we're going to affirm that for Allah. But if the aql doesn't confirm it, then there are those who say that we're going to affirm it for Allah Azza wa Jal. And then this is the bid'ah that occurred between the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila. These are the ones who consider themselves intellectuals, and they are divided when it comes to Allah's perfect, beautiful names and His perfect attributes, into numbers of groups. Okay, so now you see why we said we were just going to focus just on Asma wa Sifat. We didn't even get to that yet. The reason why, because this is where all of this problem came in. How to understand Allah. The best way we understand Allah is through His names and His attributes. But if people are having problems on accepting Allah's names and attributes, and they want to use their intellect to either reject it or deny it, or they want to explain it away, distort it, or they want to just deny it outright, or they want to change it, or they want to ask how, all of these different things here cause a problem within the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says the first group, there were those who say that it's never permissible for us to ascribe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with being with existence, meaning that Allah exists, nor with the fact that He doesn't exist. Alright? Pay attention what they were doing now. So they said that if we describe Him with existence, then describing Him with existence what necessitates now that He had to be similar or co-equal, or He had to be compared or resembles the other things that are in existence. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, then we're going to have to say He's like the other things that we know that exist. But we don't want to say that about Allah. We don't want to say Allah is compared to the creation. We don't want to say that. So what are we going to wind up doing? We're going to wind up denying that He exists in the first place. Pay attention to this. And if we describe Him with non-existence, then He will have to be compared to those things which are non-existence, right? And according to this type of concept or understanding, then it necessitates that a person negates both existence and non-existence from Allah. And this is what one group were actually on. They said Allah didn't exist or He didn't exist. Ain't this crazy? And you said it's intellectual, right? Ain't this crazy? This reminds me of the statement of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that he mentioned that our comprehension of Allah Jalla wa Ala is incomprehensible. Whatever we can't fathom or understand of Allah is our comprehension of Allah. You're only going to know about Allah Jalla wa Ala what He informs you. You're only going to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatever He informs you, whether that be via His revelation or whether it be via His messengers that He had revealed something to them about Him. You're not going to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on your own through your limited intellect that He created in the first place. And it takes me out because people are so fascinated with their own intellect that they don't even realize that the imagination that they have, Allah created that too. Your imagination is nothing that came from you. Allah created your imagination. So now it takes me out. People will sit there and try to question the Creator, and this is why it's important to understand Asma wa Sifat. But don't you want to know something that's strange? Because Sheikh Tamim is going to say this in the end. You want to know what's crazy? The companions never had this problem. They never had the problem. There is not one report from the companions that they had the problem with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying He has a hand. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that He has to having two right hands. With Allah rolling up the heavens and the earth. With Allah doing this. Allah coming. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying He's going to come. The angel's going to come. Allah rising above His throne. They had no problem with these issues. They never questioned Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or made a fuss about it. No problem. Sheikh Tamim going to tell us why. And it's important though to understand that. But everybody, they think they got it, right? So the Sheikh, he says, it becomes now, with this type of ideology or concept, is that now for the Creator, we're going to resemble Him to things that are impossible. Right? Because if we describe Him with both existence and non-existence, ain't this a contradiction? And both of these contradictions cannot gather together. We can't collectively grab these contradictions together. And the intellect that Allah gave us in the first place will reject this. This is something that anybody, you can go to a child, we will reject this. You can't say Allah doesn't exist and Allah, you can't say Allah is non-existent and Allah exists. You can't say that. They're going to reject it. Either He exists or He doesn't exist. That's what they're going to say. It's not, your intellect is not going to allow you to say, can it be possible for something to exist and not exist at the same time? Your intellect is not going to allow you to do that, right? So he says, he wants you to pay attention to something now. He said, فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ فَرُّوا مِنْ شَيْءٍ فَوَاقَعُوا فِي أَشَرُّ مِنْهُ. Pay attention now, because they thought they were protecting themselves. This is the only reason why they've done this in the first place. Look how they ran from one thing only to fall into something worse than the thing that they was running from. We did not want to compare Allah to His creation, okay? So because if we say Allah, we affirm that Allah exists, then we want to compare Him to His creation. We don't want to compare Allah to His creation. Allah said, "Laysa kamithlihi shay." Allah is not like nothing, right? Nothing is like unto Him. So we don't want to do that. So here's a bright idea. So to safeguard ourselves from not doing that, we're just going to say Allah doesn't exist. You see that? You see where the intellect gets you? فَلَا تَكِلْنِي إِلَى نَفْسِي طَرْفَةُ عَيْنٍ. Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh Allah, do not leave me to myself for the blinking of an eye." You see where that gets you? You're running from one thing only to fall into something worse than that. SubhanAllah. The other group is another group that they say, no, we only going to affirm for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by way of negating. And we're not going to affirm for Allah by way of affirming. So pay attention to what he means. Meaning that for them, it is permissible to negate from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala those attributes that he ascribed to himself. However, we do not affirm those attributes. An example, okay? Meaning we do not say he's alive. We don't call him al-hayy, like he said. Rather, what we say is, laysa bimayyit, he's not dead. We're not going to say he's alive, but we're going to just say he's not dead. You see this? Get confusing, don't it? Nor we're going to say he's alim, but rather we're going to say he's not jahil, he's not ignorant. We're not going to say he's all knowledgeable, but we're going to say that he's not ignorant. Right? Etc. So they are the ones who affirm for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They are the ones who say if we affirm for him something, then we are automatically going to compare him to those things that exist. Because in their false understanding, in their presumptions, that they think that, this is what they're saying, they think that everything that's in existence have similarities or comparisons or resemblance. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to negate. We're only going to affirm negating things, attributes from Allah. Okay? That's what we're going to do. We're not going to affirm nothing for him, because if we do, then we're going to liken him to his creation. You understand? So this is what they want to do. And this is what their feeble intellect allowed them to come up with. Okay, فأنت لا تثبت له شيء وأما النافي فهو عدم مع أنه موجود في الكتاب والسنة في صفات الله من إثبات أكثر من النفي بكثير. Look at what he's saying. SubhanAllah. Look what Shaykh Taymiyyah is bringing here. He says, so you don't affirm anything for him, right? And as for negating, then you actually liken him to be non-existence, right? Although he is existence, mawjood fil kitab wa sunnah, these things that you are negating, they exist within the kitab wa sunnah regarding the Allah's attributes. And that when it comes to Allah's attributes, you know that there are many attributes that are affirmed more than negating. There are many attributes that are affirmed more than negating from Allah Azza wa Jalla. They don't even know this. There are more things that are affirmed for Allah from his attributes than negating those attributes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is said to them, Inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qala an nafsihi. Indeed Allah, he said about his own self, Sami'un Basir, that Allah is the all-hearing and the all-seeing. They say this is from those things that are idafat, those things that are connected, meaning that we only going to ascribe it to him, sama', this hearing, not because he is the one, not because the one he's the one who have an attribute of hearing. However, because the creation, they hears. So because the creation can hear, we're only going to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is hearing here, but we don't say that he is the all-hearer. Allah musta'an. And we take the deen very lightly. We really take the deen very lightly. If you think the deen is just about you screaming from the top of your lungs that you're from the saved set, the Firqat al-Najiyah, you're from the Mansura, the Ta'ifatul Mansura, or you're from the victorious group, or you Salafi. If you think the deen is just that, then you're sadly mistaken. If you think the deen is just hollow claims with no ilm, no true deep knowledge about your creator and what your creator wants from you, then you're sadly mistaken. And if you think you can go up against people, I'm telling you, man, the ulama have dealt with some crazy people, man, that think some crazy stuff. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala armed them with the kitab wa sunnah so they'll be able to combat and wipe out and destroy these false ideologies that have wreaked havoc upon the Muslims. And there's a lot of people who comes in the form of Islam and they have become fascinated with Western academia. They have become fascinated with Western theology. They have become fascinated with the Western standard or approach. And it's already understood that even if you do an analysis or a comparison analysis between the Western and the Eastern, when it comes to understanding the Creator, you will see that the Western is more so not just secular or devoid of really understanding the Creator at all. They have more near to a religious and non-religious understanding than they are to religious understanding. And they really more liberal and at liberty, because this is what they actually preach, that you have your own mind and you should be able to think what you want to think, and you shouldn't be compelled to follow any way of thought or any religion. And this is what they teach in the colleges, this is what they teach in these schools, and this is what they profess. And this is why I'm guilty of this. This is why we're all guilty at some point, that we need to start putting our funds together and really making sure we either homeschool our kids if we can, or send our kids to an Islamic institution, period. Because they are indoctrinating our children with all types of stuff that got nothing to do with anything. These are people who do not pride themselves on being connected to their Creator. They pride themselves on being connected to their intellect, which is feeble in and of itself. And we see this. Whenever the Muslims attempted to understand Allah via intellect alone, they went astray. Don't you see this? Everything we just covered is showing you how people just went astray. Instead of them sticking to how the Sahabas was, Allah said this, we accept. They couldn't even do that. Nah, I can't fathom that. I mean, that don't make sense. The Prophet ﷺ saw a man, he had 3 hairs of strings, 3 strings on his beard. He cut them off. The first time he saw them, the Prophet smiled. The second time he saw them, the Prophet ﷺ frowned. The man said, Ya Rasulullah, why did you frown? First time you saw me, you smiled. Why did you frown when you see me next? He said, because you shaved off your hair. And there was an angel hanging from each of the hair. Your intellect can't fathom that. Minds can't fathom an angel hanging on a piece of the string of the man's beard. And there was 3 of them, right? And we know how big the angels are. Our mind can't fathom it, but should we deny it? Because we can't? Should we just reject it because we can't? Because our intellect can't fathom that? Should we now go around and try to rethink it? And this is the terms that we use. We need to rethink. Rethink what? You can't rethink Quran and Sunnah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum Islam ad-dina. That's what Allah says. Allah made it clear in that verse. Today I have perfected your deen for you. Meaning your deen was already perfected. But the simple fact that Allah is going to now remove his messenger. Pay attention. 23 years. Allah could have been took Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah could have revealed the Quran in one go. But over a span of 23 years, raising and cultivating and purifying the people, when Allah finally decided to take his messenger's life, he made him declare to the people, this day I have perfected your deen for you. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي, and I've completed my favor upon you. Meaning this virgin, this deen is all you need. Period. I'm not going to send another messenger. I'm not going to send any more books. I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z, because this is all you need. It's perfected. You don't need to try to rethink it. You don't need to have to look at it from another approach. You don't have to say, okay, how do we get it to fit the 21st century? You don't have to do that because it's suitable for every time and place. Something is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the book. Something is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the Sunnah. It is suitable for every time and place. Liberalism, feminism, all these different things, political fears and everything that we got going on right now, it can't put a dent into the Quran and the Sunnah. Not once. And with all of their intelligence and all their intellect, they are no better than monkeys. They are no better than apes. They drink, they party, they smoke. All they do is destroying the brain cells that Allah created them, destroying the body or the liver that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala given them, destroying all of the temple that they have. How can they be better? You tell me. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was blessed with the most eloquent of speech. Not the eloquent of speech that had to be so sophisticated over your head. He spoke in simplicity, simple terms. Speech that contained little bit of words but had vast meanings. He is the most followed man in the dunya. Do you understand that? He is the most followed man in the dunya. There is no one more followed than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are people who never met him, who never seen him, who never ate with him, who never walked with him, or anything, and they still follow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, he didn't graduate from Harvard. Harvard didn't even exist. It didn't need no systematic way of approach to understand this or understand that. What are you talking about? He had wahi. He had revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he didn't have to pride themselves on these different things. We are tripping, man. Get away from your intellect. Submit it to the text. Come on, man. We tripping with this stuff. Allah's thing. Look what he says here. He says that then another group of people, they came and they said, هذه أوصاف للمخلوقاته. They said that all of these attributes, they are to be attributed to the creation. And he says, وَلَيْسَتْ لَهُ, and they're not to be affirmed for the Creator himself. أما هو, as for the Creator Himself, فلا يثبت له صفة. We don't ascribe to Him any attribute. وَلِيَعْذُ بِاللَّهِ. We don't ascribe to Allah Jalla wa Ala any attribute, even though He ascribed it for Himself. He says, وَكِسْمُ الرَّابِ الْقَالُ. And then there appeared another group. That's one. He said there's another group that says we're only going to affirm the names of Allah for Him, but we're not going without the attributes. We're going to affirm that Allah have names. Okay, our intellect can understand that, but we're not going to say these got attributes. In other words, these are the people who are the Mu'tazila, the intellectuals, so to say. They affirm names for Allah. They say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Samir, He's Basir, He's Qadir, He's Alim, He's Hakim. They say Allah He's the seer, He's the hearer, He's the one who got all capability. They say that He's the one who is knowledgeable, He's the one who's wise. However, He's Qadir bila Qudra, meaning He's Qadir, but He don't have the ability. He don't have the attribute of ability. We're going to remove that. He's Samir, right? But He don't hear. He's Basir, but He don't see. He's Alim, bila ilm, but He don't have knowledge. He's Hakim, bila hikmah, but He don't have hikmah. See the weirdness stuff? Playing around, man. وَقَسْمُ الرَّابِعِ قَالُوا نُتَبِّ لَهُ أَسْمَاءُ حَقِيقًا. Then there's a fourth group. They come along and say, no, we're going to affirm for Allah those names that only can be true. Those real true. And we're going to affirm for Him specific attributes that are indicated only by the intellect. If the intellect can accept it, then that's the only way we're going to say that He has that attribute. If the intellect cannot accept it, then we're going to reject it and we say that the attribute is not for Allah. He said about these group of people, he said, نُدَبِّ لَهُ سَبْعَ صِفَاتٍ فَقَطْ وَبَاقٍ نُنْكِرُهُ تَحْرِيفًا لَا تَحْذِيبًا. He said that these group of people, they only affirm 7 attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only 7. And all of the rest of the attributes we reject out of way of distorting the actual meaning of those attributes, not out of denying them. لِأَنَّهُمْ لَوْ أَنْكِرُوهُ تَكْذِيبًا كَافِرُوا. Because if they deny them outright, then they would have disbelieved. Right? However, what they do is they deny it by way of tahrif. They distort the meaning. They change the meaning. They say, well, okay, this might mean this. This don't mean that. We're not going to say He don't have it, so, and totally it doesn't trip. We're going to say it don't mean that. We're going to come from this back. وَهُوَ مَا يَدْعُونَ أَنَهُ تَأْوِيلٌ. And there are the ones who does what they call ta'wil. الصفات السبع هي مجموعة في قوله. And then he brings us this poem that the 7 attributes that these people confirm for themselves and what they confirm for Allah. And it's in the poem له الحية وكلام والبصر سمع إرادة والعلم واقتدار. So they say that they attribute for Him hayat, they contribute for Him kalam, they contribute for Him life, speech, they contribute for Him basar, seeing, they contribute for Him sami', hearing, they contribute for Him irada, will, they contribute for Him knowledge. These are the things that they attribute to Allah. They affirm them because the aql, pay attention to that, because the intellect indicates that. As far as the rest of the attributes, is not indicated by the aql. So we can't say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have those attributes. We can't fathom that Allah can laugh. So we don't have the attribute. We can't fathom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have this rahmah. We can't fathom that. The intellect doesn't approve that. And these group of people are known as the Asha'ira. They believe in some of the attributes and they reject some of them. These groups that we mentioned, the Shaykh said, there are those who fell into the ta'atil, the denying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala names, either by distorting them or by denying them outright, His perfect names and His attributes. وَكُلَّهَا مُتَفَرِّعَةٌ مِنْ بِدْعَةِ الْجَهْمِ. And all of them are a offshoot or different branch or remnant from the innovation of Jahm ibn Safwan. Okay, and when we said Jahm ibn Safwan is the one that went to the Creator. He wasn't like the Qadariyya and the Khawarij and the Mu'tazila. But the Mu'tazila felt into some of that, or the Murji'ah. It wasn't the Khawarij, it wasn't the Qadariyya, and it wasn't the Murji'ah. They actually went to the Creator Himself, starting denying His names and His attributes. Now you see why Asma wa Sifat is so important. I hope y'all got that picture now. Now you see why it's so important? It's so important to understand it properly because many people are going to stray regarding it. He says about them, he says, وَمَنْ سَنَّ, he brings a hadith to Prophet ﷺ, مَنْ سَنَّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ سَنَّةً سَيِّئَةً فَعَلَيْهِ وَزْرُهَا وَوَزْرُ مَنْ عَمَلَ بِهَا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. So there's a hadith that comes, this is a part of a hadith that comes in, that's collected by Muslim. And in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever introduced introduced in Islam a evil sunnah, then he incurred the sin upon him and the sin of the one who does that into the day of judgment. All right. For Hasil, in brief and in summary, the Sheikh getting ready to end it. He said that أنكم أيها الإخوة, and now he's addressing the people in front of him. And this was back in, Sheikh was alive back in the 2000s, close to 1999 and 2000 before he passed. So I don't know exactly the date of when he was saying this, but when he was alive, he was addressing the audience. He said, "Oh brothers, لو طلعتم في كتب القوم, if you were to look into the books of the people, التي تأتني بجميع أقوال الناس, those people who have gathered all of these different positions and opinions and the statements of the people regarding this affair, لرأيتم, you will see things that was simply amazing." And I remember one time, I think it was I'tikaf I did. I think it was about 2 years ago. I made I'tikaf in Masjid ibn Taymiyyah, and I was having the opportunity while I was there to read just the first volume of the Nuniyya by Ibn Qayyim, and with Sheikh Salih Fawzan, with Sheikh Uthaymeen commentary. Without Sheikh Uthaymeen commentary, I wouldn't be able to understand. I'm not going to lie. The word was definitely actually tremendous in Arabic. But and anyway, what I was able to understand, there were a lot of crazy ideologies, man, that those people were dealing with. Scholars were dealing with people that was coming and saying stuff about Allah that you be like. So I understand what the Sheikh is saying. You be like, whoa, how can you say that? How can you even fathom, even think of that? And this is what the Sheikh says here. He says, Alladhi taqulun, that which will have you say, how can a believer in Allah even come up with something like this? Right? With the likes of this speech. وَلَكِنْ مَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ نُورٍ. And this is what we have to understand. You do not have the ability or the power to change anyone. You do not have the ability or the power to control anyone. You do not have the ability or the power to guide anyone. We need to start understanding these fundamental principles. Allah drilled this in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam over and over in the Quran. Your job is to convey. Your job is to convey. We have not sent you over as a guardian over them. We have not sent you to force them. You cannot do this. You have to understand this principle here. It's very important, because as long as you understand, whoever Allah Jalla wa Ala does not place a light for him, then that person won't have a light. It doesn't matter if that's your grandmother. It doesn't matter if that's your grandfather. It doesn't matter if that's your mother. It doesn't matter if that's your father. It doesn't matter if that's your brother. It doesn't matter if that's your sister. If Allah Jalla wa Ala does not guide them, meaning the guidance of Tawheed. Now, you have to understand this. This is different. We only have the ability, like the prophets, the messengers, the scholars, and so forth. We only have the ability of the first type of hidayah, which is hidayah to irshad. As Allah Jalla wa Ala tell Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Innaka tahdi ila siratal mustaqim." Indeed, you Muhammad, you guide to the straight path. Here, this guidance meaning that you call and you direct and you advise people to come to the straight path. As far as the hidayah to tawfiq, then that is only with Allah. Allah only can make a person accept. Allah only can grant them the tawfiq to accept. Not any prophet or messenger, not me, any scholar, anyone can make a person accept the truth, even if it's staring them in the face. You have to understand that. It's important. Because these individuals, Allah did not choose to place light in front of them. He said, "Alladhi a'ma Allahu basiratuhu kalladhi a'ma Allahu basarahu." Pay attention to this. He said, the one whom Allah have caused his insight now, not his eyes. The one who Allah have caused his insight, meaning his understanding to be blind. He is like the one who Allah caused his eyesight to be blind. Okay? He said, just as like the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the one whose eyesight is blind, la waqafa amamu shams allati taqsiru nur al-basar lam yaraha. Meaning like the individual who was to stop in front of the sun, which will destroy the light of his eyes, and he would not be able to see it. Likewise, whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have caused his eyesight, his understanding to go blind, if he was to stand in front of all of the light of truth, the radiant lights of truth, he would not be able to see it. وَلِيَعْذُ بِاللَّهِ. You can call him 1,000 years. You can do whatever you want to do. If Allah do not intend or wish that person to be guided, it's not going to be guided. وَلِهَذَا يَنْبَغِي, he said, يَنْبَغِي لَنَا دَائِمًا. He said, for this reason, it is incumbent upon us, all of us, constantly, always, pay attention now, constantly, that we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for thabat ala amr, to ask Allah to give us firmness upon this affair. وَأَنْ لَا يَزِيغُ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَانَا, and that He does not cause our hearts to go astray after guiding us. لِأَنَّ أَمْرُ قَطِيًّا, because this affair, here we're talking about the Asma wa Sifat, is a dangerous affair. Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً. In Surah Al Imran, Allah says, He taught us a dua, Oh our Lord, do not cause our heart to deviate after you have guided us. Do not cause our hearts to deviate. Ibrahim, he made dua to Allah Jalla wa Ala, Allah, do not test me and my progeny with shirk. Keep me and my offspring away from shirk. This was a prophet. This was a prophet and a father of deen. You understand? He still sought refuge with Allah from shirk. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us to say, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Oh, turner of the hearts, do not allow our hearts to turn away from your deen. Do not allow our hearts to turn away from your deen. This is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is because man cannot escape three states. Man, the word man, have three inherent qualities. Man himself has three inherent qualities that he cannot escape. I don't care who you are. There are things you might can do to help you with those inherent qualities, but you have inherent qualities such as man himself. The word insan, they say, scholars say, come from nasiya. So man is prone to forget often. We want to forget often. Okay, there are remedies we can use such as writing that can help our memories and help us not to forget and to record and put things down and report things so that we can always, inshallah ta'ala, remind us and remember, or to be reminded by someone else. Tawheed. And then there's the state of hastiness. Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us in the Quran that He created man in a state of haste. So man by nature inherently is a hasty creature. This is why patience is so much important. And this is why we always got to constantly be reminded of having patience. And whoever actually ascertain having patience, that's a gift from the Creator. Allah says that Himself. Okay? Right? وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا صَبْرُ اللَّهِ. That you cannot have any patience unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you that patience. And it is a great portion. Also another inherent state of man, that not only that he's forgetful and not only that he created out of haste, but man himself must also understand that he is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guidance. That man is in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guidance. And this is something that we must take in consideration when dealing with this deen. So we got to better understand how ourselves. He says, وَالشَّيْطَانُ يَدْخُلُ عَلَى ابْنِ آدَمَ مِنْ كُلِّ الصَّوْبِ وَمِنْ كُلِّ وَجْهٍ يُشَكِّكُهُ فِي عَقِيدَتِهِ وَفِي دِينِهِ وَفِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ وَسُنَّةِ رَسُولِهِ فَهَذِهِ فِي الْحَقِيقَةِ الْبِدْعَةِ الَّتِي انْتَشَرَتْ فِي الْأُمَّةِ الْإِسْلَامِيَّةِ. He said because the shaitan, he's going to enter upon the son of Adam from every aspect, every angle. He's going to place doubt or try to cause doubt within the creed or the aqidah, the belief system of the servant, or in his deen, or in the book of Allah, or in the sunnah of the messenger of his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is in reality the innovation which has spread within the Islamic society, in this Islamic community. We cannot walk around like we saved, brothers and sisters. We cannot walk around like that. Many of us don't even have the book of Allah in our breasts. I'm not talking about just memorizing. This al-Fadid. That's not big. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like how the companions understood the Quran. They knew what it meant. They implemented it. They acted off of it. That's what I'm talking about. Not just talking about memorizing. But many of us can't use the armor that we need to fight and combat that which is out there because we don't have the necessary knowledge. All we have is shahada. All we have is that we might pray here and there, or we might pray alhamdulillah, or we go to associate with this masjid, or we have that, but we're not grounded. We're not rasik. And if you're not rasik, you are flimsy. I want you to understand what that means. If you're not rasik, if you're not firmly rooted, you understand? That means when the wind blows, you can go that way. Do you understand that? That's what that means. If you're not thabit, you're not firm, then you can go this way or that way. This is the important why you have to learn knowledge. You have to be well grounded. Look what he said. فَيُوشِكُ أَنْ يُحَلَّ بِنَا مَحَلَّ فِي غَيْرِنَا مِنَ الْبَلَادِ الْإِسْلَامِيَّةِ. Because what's going to occur and what's going to take place is what we see and take place now, is that what's going to be opened up to us is that which has been opened up to everything that's around us, or that which has changed from the other places other than the Islamic countries. وَهَذَا بَلَادُ الْآن, and he said he was talking about Saudi Arabia at the time because he's from the city of Neza. he was talking about Saudi Arabia. He said that this land now هو الذي يركز عليه أعداء الإسلام ويسلطون عليه سهامهم. He said right now the enemies of Islam, they are focused on this particular land, all right, and they want to gain authority over it, and they have the arrows or their weapons and so forth in order to misguide or mislead its people. فلذلك تصلح بالعلم. For this reason, we must arm ourselves, okay? Pay attention now. This reason they can be fought off and fought back with knowledge. حتى تكون على بينة من أمر دينكم. And to the point that you become confirm upon clear evidence of the affair of your religion. وأنت تكونوا مجاهدين بألسنتكم وأقلامكم لأعداء الله سبحانه وتعالى. And that you can become from those who are mujahid, those who fight in the way of Allah with their tongues, also meaning giving their speeches and their lectures and their khutbahs and so forth in their classes. Also, وأقلامكم, with your pen, meaning writing your treaties, writing your newsletters, writing your books, so forth like that, to refute the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وكل هذه البدع انتشر بعد الصحابة. And all of these innovations have spread widely after the Sahabas. For Sahaba رضوان الله عليهم لم يكونوا يبحثون في هذه الأمور. Because the companions themselves, they did not research or delve deeply into these issues. They did not question the Creator. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the Creator. لأنهم يتلقون الكتاب والسنة على ظاهرهما وعلى ما تقتضيه الفطرة. Because they are the ones who took directly from the book and the Sunnah on its apparent meaning, outrightly they took it, and was according to their fitr. That's the fitr. وَالْفِطْرَةُ سَلِيمَةُ سَلِيمَةُ. And they had a pure, unadulterated fitrah. لكن أتاها هؤلاء متبعون. However, there came these innovators. فابتدعوا في دين الله تعالى ما ابتدعوا. So they innovated or introduced this innovation into the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What they innovated. إما لكلة علم. And this is either due to their own due to the limited knowledge that they had, or due to the deficiencies they had in their comprehensions, or due to their evil intentions in the first place, meaning they wanted to distort the understanding. Because a lot of people don't know that the Habashis actually was a plot by the British agents. They got a group of agents to infiltrate, and don't think that this stuff is far-fetched. It's true. We had learned this. The scholar was explaining this in a lecture we did at Masjid Ibn Taymiyyah, that they have got a group of individuals to infiltrate and to start up something where as though about this understanding of F1, not the Habashis, it was the Ahmadiyya. That what they did is to come up with this understanding of disbelief and then have these group of people to come together and so forth, and then they came up with these misconceptions that there was another prophet after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And if you don't know nothing about human beings, you need to study. All you got to do is look on TV right now. Look outside. We will follow anything. Just will follow anything. If it's a person worshiping a penis, it's people worshiping a penis. If it's a person worshiping a cat, it's people worshiping a cat. If it's a person worshiping the sun, it's people worshiping the sun. If it's a person saying we don't believe in the Creator, it's people don't believe in the Creator. If a person is saying that we got different genders, there are people saying that we got different genders. If it's a person that's saying that we believe just in the stars, we got people that saying we believe in the stars. Think about what we're saying. Human beings are feeble. They'll follow anything. One day I'm going to do a talk just specifically, and I wanted to do this talk about the burning sage, and I'm going to bring those verses. Allah tells you the asl of human beings. He tells you in a verse, a beautiful verse, that majority of them are mushrikeen. I want you to understand that. Majority of the people are people who commit shirk with Allah. Period. Awesome. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about that. When Allah guides you and give you this aqidah, you have to hold on to it. You can't just say, I got it. No, you got to sharpen your knife. So the Shaykh mentioned, I'm going to end it here. The Shaykh says, so they have corrupt the deen, the world, with these innovations, what they have innovated. However, just as we say, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, due to His wisdom, due to His praise, due to His benevolence, due to His bounty, that there is not an innovation that have sprung His ugly head, except that Allah Jalla wa Ala have counteracted or combated with removing it, and wiping it out and clarifying it. And from those group of individuals who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed to wipe out those things is waqamu qiyamah tamaman. And to establish it completely and wipe it out was Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah during his time, rahimahullah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for me as well as for you that he gather us and him into his gardens of delight. Ameen. This man was a benefit by way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to those whom he came, because he was able to distort and rule those people out. And I know a lot of people say, brother, you didn't talk about Asma wa Sifat. Asma wa Sifat, in a nutshell, I did talk about those things surrounded by it, because I want us to understand the fundamental points before I go into another talk, inshallah ta'ala, when I explain the actual Asma wa Sifat. And Shaykh Taymiyyah got kalam on that, what's to understand Allah's perfect names. But there's a set of principles, a set of things we need to understand. There is to be a background about it, because the Asma of Allah and the Sifat of Allah must have certain principles. And those main principles, again, you must affirm for Allah what he affirmed for himself. Okay? We do not call Allah names that he did not name himself. We do not give Allah attribute that he did not name himself. We don't refer to Allah as the man upstairs. We don't refer to Allah as the big man. We don't call him the boss. These words, these statements are all incorrect. It's not properly the way that we call on Allah Azza wa Jal. We call on those names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran and authentically in the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala affirmed for himself, we affirm. Whatever he negate for himself, we negate. If he affirmed it for himself, then the opposite hold true, that we negate. If he negates something for himself, then the opposite hold true, that we affirm. These are classes in and themselves that you have to really intricate classes to take. And I would direct you to someone who's doing a beautiful and excellent job, who have way more knowledge than me, who is, they like to call him Baby Sheikh, who is our Sheikh, a Dr. Tahir Wyatt. Alhamdulillah, he did a good job on the Asma wa Sifat, on the names and attributes of Allah. Do not get caught up in the kalam about listening to this one or not listening to that one. Take out and benefit your soul and listen to it. It's very simple. The speech is very easy to comprehend and to grasp, dealing with Allah's names and attributes, and he doesn't get too technical. And that's the beauty about it, whereas that he doesn't lose his audience. He allows you to understand, take some principles, take some notes, and you'll be able to understand those type of things, which is thing. I want to mention last but not least, the importance of, again, do not get fascinated by what you see in the Western society. Please do not. And I'm not talking about the Eastern society of the Arab countries versus the Western countries. I'm not even into that. I'm talking about Islam. I don't care. I'm talking about Islam versus the Western countries, not the Arabs, okay? I'm talking about Islam itself versus the Western countries. Because what we do is we get fascinated by intellect. We get fascinated by speech. And we start quoting people. And, you know, everybody like fascinating words and inspiring speech. I mean, we quote people, you know, that are kuffar, you know. I'm not saying that it's impermissible. We quote their quotes and they write them down. Some of these people who are inventors, some of these people who are allegedly inventors, we don't really know their story. Some people who stole things from other inventors who weren't well known and took it. And then some people who had profited off of the slave trade of blacks, and now they got all of these, you know, get rich and all these type of proverbial statements, and they put them all up over the internet, and we all share it and we pass it and we like it and we think these statements are good. But when you look at the statements of the Salaf, these are the statements that benefit your heart. These are the statements that are pure. These are men that you wouldn't have known anything about them because they was actually celebrities with Allah Azza wa Jal. You know what I mean? They had the most highest, not the most highest paid profession, but they had the most highest paid profession. You understand what I mean? Meaning that they were on a manzila, a station with Allah Jalla wa Ala that was higher than anything that this dunya could offer. And that's why their words are still repeated to our time. And their words might carry on until Allah Jalla wa Ala established the hour. So do not be fascinated by intellect. Do not think that you can approach any subject without really understanding your deen. Do not get fascinated about that, brothers and sisters. There are some brothers that have graduated and some brothers who have went down these courses, and we found out they had actually started going left, you know, so to speak. It started going left, and that's only because they was fascinated by what they were learning. And it's important that you don't do that. And that's what we see in here. It's important you don't do that. When it comes to Allah, you don't know. You don't know. No one placed it on you to know. The only thing you need to know is what He wants you to know. And that's from His book. When it comes to Allah, you stick to what He said in His book. When it comes to Allah, you stick to what His Prophet ﷺ said to His book. Whether your intellect can fathom it or not, no one asks you. When it comes to Allah, no one asks you your opinion. How you feel about it, how you think about it. No. You stick to what Allah said, you stick to what the Prophet ﷺ said, and you safeguard yourself. You don't have to figure out, well, that don't make sense, this can't happen, or that can't happen. No, because what it can lead you to is kufr. You can say something about Allah, deny something from Allah that is actually disbelief. And boom, you're gone. All because your limited intellect and your imagination couldn't fathom it. But Hollywood tells you everything. And you don't fight back on that. Hollywood tells you everything. Hollywood shows you everything. You let your kids watch it, you watch it, everything. They tell you about this, Infinity Wars, all this different stuff. You know, we always caught up in the Jones, superheroes and all that. Hollywood tell you all that. But the creator tell you something that's, oh, my mind can't really fathom that. I don't know if the creator, what are you talking about? Hollywood over here telling you that you got people who live on other planets. That was a whole galaxy. You got people who was this. It was a talking rat. What was a raccoon, a rat, something. You got people telling you this, that, and all of this stuff you can fathom and conceive. But when it comes to Allah telling you that He got trees that's going to speak. When it comes to Allah telling you that, as in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that the wolf, the animal, going to speak, that your shoelace is going to talk. When it comes to Allah telling you that there are rivers, that the hellfire speak, that these things are going to happen, that Ya'juj and Ma'juj actually does exist. When you got a wall and you can kind of fathom whether that wall is still there or not. No one asks you that. The wall is there because Allah said it was. Allah tells you in Baqarah, 5 different places in Baqarah about resurrection. One of the resurrections that He described to you is that He killed the man for 100 years. And He kept his food intact for 100 years. He kept his drink intact for 100 years. He clove back his bones. He asked the man, as if the man never was dead for 100 years. He actually killed the man for 100 years, kept his food, kept his drink, kept everything intact. The people of the cave kept everything intact. You understand what I'm saying? Everything intact. And then you want to fathom and say, well, I can't. No, I don't care about that. Stick to Quran wa Sunnah. Period. Your intellect can never outgrow that. You hear a man talking about, I outgrew that. What did you outgrow? How can you outgrow the Quran and Sunnah? First of all, Allah's knowledge is too vast. You will never get His knowledge. So how did you outgrow the Quran and the Sunnah? How did you outgrow the Sunnah? Can someone tell me how can you get to a point in your life that you outgrew this? You outgrown the Sunnah. I'm past that. I'm not. You know, that's like trivial. I mean, that's minute right now. And I'm over here. Yeah, you definitely over here, because the Quran and the Sunnah you would never get enough of. Never. We need to really, really humble ourselves. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to really grant us true knowledge of His deen, and to allow us to stick to that true knowledge of His deen, and do not allow us to be ever impressed or ever fooled by our own intellect or the intellect of others or the speech of others. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guard us and make us stick upon the Quran and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions with one Allah ta'ala alayhim, until we reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to allow us to stick to it even if the whole dunya they turn their back on the Quran and the Sunnah. Even if the whole dunya, they want immorality over morality. Even if the whole dunya fight against us, call us strangers, call us weirds, call us nuts, call us whatever. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us firm, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is in control. Just like He has always been in control. He never relinquished His control to anyone. Don't ever think that. Whoever we said that was incorrect is definitely from ourselves and shaitan. Whoever said is correct from Allah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa ilayk. And also for the Asma wa Sifat, like I said, I'm going to do another video that goes into explaining the actual Asma wa Sifat. But I wanted to give a background for it, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.